Sure, yeah. So we picked Berlin because my producer, who's not here, but she's Swiss German and she speaks German, and we wanted to do a different city other than something in the US. And so Berlin is a really big art city. There's a lot of art in the streets, and it's just a really sort of exciting city for to see art, you know, around the city as opposed to just in the galleries. There's a lot of pop-up spaces. So that's how, you know, we went there in 2011 while I was still writing the script, and I rewrote the entire script around the city because it was inspiring me so much. And then as far as the art goes, we had just an amazing production designer, Sebastian Sukup. He's a Berliner, and he's worked with like Wim Wenders. He does a lot of commercial stuff. He's actually used to working on much higher budgets. And so he would come and have these like great grand ideas, and then he would give us the budget. We would be like, no, this is an independent film. And he would be like, what do you mean? No, I can't, I have to do it. And we're like, well, can you do this? And then he'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I could get a lower price on that. So it was just like really interesting, I think, for both of us to work together and try to like, because I would want to encourage his visions. Like I hated, you know, I would hate to work with somebody who was so used to working on a low budget that it almost like limits their ideas. So he would, like, the office for Daniel was actually a hallway and had elevators and everything. We got panels and covered up just because we liked the architecture of the ceiling. So, you know, to have those types of ideas. I'm sorry, but you asked about the art. He also designed the art. We had, we originally hired a real artist because our co-producer said, you have to, he's from the art world, and he said, you have to hire a real artist. And the real artist wouldn't listen to me and like he's like, but I'm an artist. And I was like, have you read the script? He's like, of course not, I'm an artist. I do what I want. I was like, well, you know, we're kind of making fun of you in this movie. So he like made all this like modern art that had, and I was like, well, we can't see the top of it because we're shooting CinemaScope. It's going to cut it out. What's CinemaScope? I don't care. I'm an artist. So finally we hired not a real artist, but our production designer did all of those pieces. I used Basquiat originally as an inspiration, and then, or one of the many inspirations, and then we found this other sculptor from LA called Michel Hausago, who's like sort of that primitive and like figurative Basquiat style, but sculptural. And so the sculptures we thought would be much more interesting to do three-dimensional. We see a lot of painting, so we wanted to work with like modern art materials. So that was really interesting to see, like, you know, and have Jack working with like the foam and having the artist come in and actually show him how to, you know, do the wiring and the foam and the plaster and then all of that. So good question. Yes.
The cast, speaking of Jack, we're big fans of his, and so how did you come about the casting? They were both great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've just really lucky, but we knew we wanted both of them. We had a casting agent in the UK who was just fortunately knew Jack's manager, and I think we just got them at the right time, except for Britt. Like, our own casting director said, there's no way you're gonna get Britt Marley, and she was the only person I'd ever wanted. We literally couldn't even think of anybody else, because I was inspired by, you know, Katharine Hepburn and a lot of these older actresses, and she just had the elegance that I knew I wanted and the sophistication. And he said, there's no way you're gonna get her. She's turned down Soderbergh and all these big directors. And I said, we'll just send out, you know, the request, and if we get a no, we'll get a no, and we'll move on in 2-3 weeks. And within 2 weeks, we got a response, and I met with her, and she was on. So it's just really lucky. Yes.
How did you get your start in the business, and what kind of training did you pursue?
Well, nothing like formal. I didn't go to film school, so I guess that's a good indication for anybody who wants to make movies that you can, and you don't need that necessarily. So I studied piano. I was a concert pianist for most of my life, and then I took a couple film writing classes on my own, and I took an acting class as a director, which I really recommend to anybody who wants to be a filmmaker. And that was basically it. I did a couple like short student films, and then just again got really lucky being able to get this one cast and financed, and this is actually my first like real project. So. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Now, Berlin is very scenic, very scenic city. So how did you guys differentiate
We did a lot of location scouting for like 2-3 years, and Berlin has actually, we really picked scenes. But it's like with every movie, you watch Paris in a movie, and then you go to Paris, and you're like, well, it's kind of smelly, and like, where's the Eiffel Tower? So it's a little bit like that. We really picked the best spots and tried to find places that were representative of. Were you thinking of like a specific scene?
I was particularly thinking of the roof, of the roof with the building they went up, where they were looking over.
Oh, Teufelsberg. So that was like a old abandoned during the war, like the American spy building, or like listening station. So it's pretty well known in Berlin, and but you can't go, it's closed off, it's private, you have to do tours. So that was our most expensive location, but we just really felt like with the tattered, like all of that is original, we didn't do any production design, and so to get the value of that spot for us was really important, and we really fought for it, so.
You think the was there too?
Yeah, everything was original there. Yes.
How did you write it and know that it was good? Because it's really good. If you have somebody else that said, hey, read it, see if there's anything that doesn't sound right, because it just seems like it's just seamless and it wraps around perfectly.
Oh,
so
I still don't know that it's good until you're telling me. So that's good. It's good, positive feedback. But I think
good.
Thank you. I don't think you ever really know, and my producer really believed in me. But it's her first film too, so I was like, is she just crazy, or is it actually good? And she was the one who found the financing. So, but then the actors came on board, so we were like, okay, it's got to be something good. But to be honest, a lot of it got done in the editing as well. Like we really trimmed and cut certain, like as a first-time writer, I would overwrite a little bit. And my editor was so amazing, and he did a lot to just really like tighten everything up and make everything flow.
And then the second part. So like, let's say when you're directing and you're filming, was there parts that you go, it sounds better if they said, did you ever change it within it, or you just kept to your script?
Well, I always gave the actors the option to change a line or feel like the character said something differently. I don't think they changed that much. There was one line that Jack added that was a huge thing, because in that scene in the club, and it's the line where he says, that very last line where he says, I really believe everybody can do something great. Maybe all we need is a little bit of encouragement. And that was from him. And so I think he really resonated with whatever the theme was, and he felt that, and we were like, yes, that's exactly what we're missing. And so definitely there's those moments. And thank you.
Can you talk about the balance between the comedy and drama?
Sure. So that was pretty difficult. I wouldn't say difficult. For me, that's life. Everything's always funny and dramatic, even when things are really dramatic. Like I'm at a funeral and I'll find something funny, because that's how I get through life. A lot of us have to. But I got a lot of resistance. People saying, well, is this a comedy or is it a drama? And I said, why do I have to choose? Well, if it's this, like people have to fall down and it has to be that. And so that was always a struggle to try and convince people of the type of comedy I wanted to do, and that it wasn't like, we weren't playing for the jokes. And again, we had co-producers that wanted us to cast comedic actors. They're like, oh, well, you've got to get, the Seth Rogen type. We've got a bunch of German Seth Rogens. Let's get those people. It's like, it's a different type of comedy, And so I wanted people to broaden their view of what the genre of a film can be. Yes.
Can you talk about where you're based out of now, where you were before you shot this, and maybe talk a little bit about funding?
Yeah, I'm based in LA. That wasn't where the funding came from. I got really lucky again and met my producer, who's from Switzerland, and she had some access to financing, and I just happened to pitch her a project, and we became really good friends as well. So, and I'm still based in LA. Yes.
The whole concept of the artist, faking his death so that he can be famous. That's a pretty cool concept on its own to carry the movie. Did you always want to have that romance in there too, or was that added later?
The romance, I think, was later. Like that concept came first, but we always wanted to, I think, make it a comedy, and then Yeah, I guess romantic, because we were inspired by these screwball comedies, and I feel like a lot of these older movies, there's always a romance in it, and but not in like a, you know, where the girl's like tripping over toilet paper and that makes her quirky kind of way, but you know, in a really elegant way where it's a, like with, again, Katharine Hepburn and these Cary Grant movies, and so we were inspired by Philadelphia Story, His Girl Friday, and a lot of those types of stories, and so yeah, and also Sullivan's Travels by Preston Sturges with Veronica Lake, and so yeah. Yes.
How did your producer initially approach the financing? Did you have like a private investor, or did you market the film?
Private, yeah.
Now there's a scene in the movie where he's in the car, and he tells the art dealer, "I'm going to fix this." Now in the way I interpreted it was, okay, I estimated, okay, maybe he'll really kill himself. So that we do it to fix it, to leave everybody else in the same situation. The way the movie is set up throughout the whole sequence, the movie could have turned out great, whether he actually did kill himself and it ended in a tragedy, or the happy route. So why did you personally choose the happy route?
Because I guess because when I was writing it, I was a fairly optimistic person. Maybe the next time it'll be different now that I've been through the ringer. And you know, my producer and I talked a lot about it. I had actually thought about some different ideas, but we really wanted to do a classic fairy tale, and we wanted to play with that structure of it being a classic romantic comedies, you know, and not disappoint the people who wanted that, I guess. Anyone else? Yes.
So as a first timer for you and your producer, how do you take that step? Maybe you don't ever have any fear, maybe that's where you're able to net out where you are now. But when were you both able to take that step and say, let's just do it? Like, what was that driving force to say? I mean, you went big, you know. It's not like, oh, I'm a first timer, let's play it safe. I mean, you went big, and how did you? What is it either about you or your producer that made you just take that step?
So we were in the car driving to IKEA. And a friend of mine, she was working for a producer, another producer friend of ours, and another friend of mine, this guy said, "Oh, you should meet this Swiss lady." And I was like, "Why do I want to meet a Swiss lady? Like, I have so much to do. I don't want to meet a Swiss lady." But then she said, "I need to go to IKEA." And I was like, "I love IKEA. I'll take you to IKEA." So I took her to IKEA, and it's sort of like, you know, any relationship where like the spark just happens. On the way to IKEA, we both talked about what we wanted to do. She said she really wanted to produce, and she could get access to a small bit of money. At first it was like micro budget, and I was like, okay, even micro budget was big for me. So I said, I'll write something. So this started out as like $100,000 film in one location, and then we just got like carried away and went to Berlin and started casting. But I think, you know, the spark was really, for us, naivete. I think today, having been through this, it's actually harder because you know how much it takes. But at the time, we were just so naive, and we just thought, well, you know, all these other people are doing it, and there's so many movies that aren't that good, we can do it too. So that, and also one more thing is, I was just talking to another filmmaker. We had a women's panel earlier this week, and you know, a lot of the conversation these days is about, you know, just pick up a camera and go make a movie. Anybody can do it. And I think that spirit is really, really great to like, you know, empower people to say, yes, you can make a movie. But I also think there's a lot of value to taking your time and making sure the script is good, and really like we started writing the script in 2009 and developing it, and then we didn't shoot till 2012, which actually is pretty fast for a first film and independent film. And people take like 7-10 years, but you know, but still we had many years to develop, and we were rewriting all the way up to the point where we shot in 2012. And so I think there's value to that, and also like really looking at the story and raising the kind of money that's needed for that film, because I've seen so many films that are underwritten or just didn't have enough budget to really be able to fulfill the vision of the director, and so you don't want to sell yourself short. And so yeah.